My shirt matches my pillow. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Hannah, and now that you do know me, we're friends. Welcome to our friendship. I have a little story to tell. So I've been in a bit of a reading slump for the past 4 years. Yeah, there are reasons for that. One of the reasons for that is school really knows how to drain your love of reading. And another reason is just before I went into the slump, I read a bunch of YA dystopian novels. I feel like I was just setting myself up for failure. Don't come for me if you like YA dystopian novels. I'm just saying. Divergent and Maze Runner might have put me in a 4-year reading slump. But guys, it's okay. We're out of it. When I tell you I never thought I'd see this day coming. In the month of October, I read 14 books. What? That number for me is unheard of. I read all of these books this month. And I've had some friends messaging me being like, I'm in a reading slump too, what do I read? This video is for you. Yo, this thing. Oh my God. What was I saying? I would like to thank this little guy for getting me out of a reading slump, as well as the books I'm about to mention. I have 5 books that I greatly attribute to being the reason why I got out of my reading slump this month. And a spoiler alert, literally all of them have a queer rep in them. So I just want to pop in with a quick disclaimer. There are some trigger warnings for some of these books, and anything that you need to know about that is listed in the description below. Please make sure that these books are for you and that you're not going to jeopardize your mental health by reading them. Put yourself first. This first book that I'm going to talk about is very popular and very widely read. So if you haven't read it yet, you're probably either not on BookTube or BookTok, or you don't want to be happy. And literally anyone who reads on the regular will probably know that I'm about to say it's The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I'm putting this book on here because not only is it amazing, so good, but it's also a fantastic way to break a reading slump. It is so easy to read, it's fun, it's like comedic, it's cute as, it makes your heart grow like 5 sizes. This book is magical realism, so it's set in our world, but there are magical beings in it. If you don't like fantasy, this is very, very light fantasy, so you'll be fine. But also if you don't like fantasy, The story follows Linus Baker, who's like a caseworker for magical orphanages. He basically goes to these orphanages and makes sure that the kids are being treated well, and also that they're not at a risk to themselves or anybody else. This man is such a rule follower, and so that is why he is the one who is tasked with a secret mission. He has to go and investigate an orphanage that only the higher-ups in the company know about because it houses the world's most potentially dangerous magical children. And Linus is terrified. He has to live among these magical children who he's been told are incredibly dangerous, as well as the master of the orphanage, Arthur, who's very mysterious, and he has to observe them and send his reports back to the higher-ups of the company. What Linus doesn't expect are the secrets that he finds out about the orphanage along the way, as well as the fact that he has to examine his own biases. In the end, it's really up to him to decide the fate of the orphanage. Does he keep it open, or is it too dangerous to even exist? 5 out of 5 stars. This book is everything. It's so incredibly wholesome and has such a beautiful representation of found family, and also examines what it's like to be different and face discrimination or prejudice for that. The characters in this book are probably my favorite part. It is more so a character-driven plot. I've read 2 of TJ Klune's books now, The House in the Cerulean Sea, and also his newest release, Under the Whispering Door, and I will say, this man is so good at writing unique character voices. Every single one of the characters is so iconic. The kids in this book. Literally every time Lucy or Chauncey came on screen, I was like, stop, hold it right there. Let me give you a hug. There's also a beautiful character growth story for Linus in the way that his mind changes, not just about the world and his work and these children and the master of the orphanage, but also about himself. And there's also a really, really sweet, slow burn love story between him and the master of the orphanage, Arthur, and it's just so special. Overall, this book is witty, it's whimsical, it has beautiful characters and beautiful storylines, and it's just so easy to get lost into. I think I read this book in 3 days, which for me, starting out after being in a 4-year reading slump, that's an achievement. This book genuinely reignited my love for reading, so I really hope that it does the same for you. Next, we have a book where I related to it so much that it was kind of a little scary. And that's Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Radio Silence follows Frances, who is a highly academic, high-achieving young woman who struggles to connect with her friends, and Aled, who is really, really shy and nervous at first, but there's more to him than it seems. These are two characters that feel really alienated by the usual comings and goings of society and their social lives, and they don't feel that they can ever really be themselves until, of course, they meet each other. A beautiful, beautiful friendship blossoms between these two, but eventually trust is broken, guilty pasts come up, and academic pressure threatens their mental health, and yeah, it's a tough time. Aled and Frances are just so, so special, and Alice Oseman does an incredible job of writing, number one, how young people speak to each other and how they interact, and number two, the mind of an anxious thinker. And I wish I didn't relate, but I do. Frances is me. Like, I love these characters with all my heart, but I have to admit that I kind of got really annoyed at Frances sometimes, purely because the things that she does are the exact same things that I get annoyed with myself about. Growing up, I was also the person who was into weird things and like media and TV shows and books and just stuff that like people didn't really get. Oh my god, guys. I'm actually not like other girls. It was very scary that it felt like Alice Oseman was inside my head sometimes though. Then I also know what it's like to finally find friends who get you, who understand your interests, who encourage you to enjoy the things that you enjoy, and that's exactly what Aled is to Frances, and Frances is to Aled. Guys, I am such a sucker for platonic friendships that are like really beautiful, and this book gave it to me in spades. As is common in Alice Oseman's books and graphic novels, there's some gorgeous queer representation in this, as Frances comes into her bisexuality and Aled struggles to explain what demisexuality is to his boyfriend and what that means to him. And I am so happy that there's demisexual representation. This book also touches on fan culture and being involved in online spaces, and that is something that I relate to a lot, so I thought that was really, really cool. But the reason why I've put this book on this list is because it's really easy to get into. The writing is not super complex, it's not super overly descriptive. The chapters are short, the characters are entertaining. This is a absolutely beautifully written story about platonic friendship and navigating the world as a young person and extreme academic pressure that can absolutely cripple you. The next book I'm going to touch on is another absolute book talk and booktube favorite. If you haven't heard of it by now, I don't know what to tell you. It's Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey mcquiston. This is a romance novel, which is very weird for me to read. Have I ever read a romance novel before this? I don't think I have. But I'm very glad I read this because this is adorable. This book follows Alex, who is the first son of the United States. Yes, in this book, the Democrats won the 2016 election with a fictional female president. Now, Alex has a little bit of rivalry with Henry, who is the Prince of England. When the two of them meet again at a royal wedding, the tabloids catch them in an altercation that literally threatens US and British relations. So in order to save face, these two have to basically fake a friendship for the public eye. Which of course, you know, they hate each other, so nothing could ever come out of that. Well, the two of them get along better than they thought, and they enter a secret relationship where, number one, the public cannot know because it will cause a scandal that could soil the royal family's reputation and cost Alex's mother the re-election campaign, and also they can't catch feelings. Like, that plot alone is fun, but honestly, there is so much more to this book than you can see on the surface. I thought Casey mcquiston did such a great job of portraying young adults in their early 20s and also these children who have their entire lives scrutinized by the public eye. Throughout the book, Alex discovers his bisexuality and Henry navigates the ingrained homophobia that comes with being born into such a traditional life. I personally really loved the character of June, Alex's sister. She wants to be a journalist, but of course she is like the first daughter of the United States, and so no one takes her seriously. They just give her fluff pieces. And both the siblings are biracial, and the story touches on some of the challenges that they face having Mexican heritage and living in the White House. I've heard some people like critique the book by saying that the political storyline was way too idealized, but like, wasn't that the point? Casey mcquiston has talked about writing it in response to the 2016 election, and honestly, I just found it to be an amazing, relaxing escape from the current political climate that we live in. So I love this book. I love Henry and Alex. I love their friends and their siblings, and like I said, I'm not a big romance reader, but this was amazing. Next up, we have another TJ Klune book actually, and it's Under the Whispering Door. I'm surprised that like more people aren't talking about this book because I know, it's crazy, right? Okay, so I actually don't think that the official synopsis of the book does it justice at all. So here is my version. This book follows a character called Wallace Price, who is dead. Yes, the author kills off the main character in the first chapter. And that is not a spoiler. Don't worry, the whole book is about him being dead. It's not a spoiler. When Wallace dies, he meets a reaper and is taken miles and miles away from the city to a very eccentric tea shop in a small town. The shop is owned by the ferryman Hugo, who is tasked with helping souls into the next life, whatever that may be. But Wallace isn't ready to move on. And as he spends time in the tea shop getting to know the other ghosts that live there, as well as the reaper and the ferryman, he has to come to terms with the fact that he's unsatisfied with the life that he lived, but there's nothing he can do to change it. All the while, there's another mysterious plot going on about why on earth does a system like this exist? Who runs it? What is its purpose? Who is this mystery soul that has been left behind? Guys, this book is funny. No, it's like literally a book about like grief and death, which are very serious topics. But I'm really surprised by like how many times I just laughed and had a great time. Like I will literally be laughing in one chapter and then crying the next. Yes, this book made me cry. Twice. And no, I don't mean like a single solitary tear running down my cheek. No, I needed tissues. Just like The House in the Cerulean Sea, Klune writes these characters that I just absolutely fall in love with. They are so beautiful, they're so unique, and they're funny. And the main character is honestly kind of insufferable. And somehow by the end of the book, I absolutely loved him. There's also a really sweet queer storyline between Hugo and Wallace, and it's also kind of angsty because, you know, Wallace is dead. This book like really touched me and impacted me, and I really wanted to give it 5 stars. But I only ended up giving it 4 because the pacing of the book is a little bit weird. It starts off quite slow, which honestly like would have been completely fine if the whole mystery element of the book wasn't like squished into the last 25%. I think because of this, some of the things that happened near the end felt quite rushed and a bit too convenient for me, which was a bit of a shame because I really did like the book. But regardless, the characters kept it entertaining the whole way through. I think this will get you out of a reading slump for the same reasons that The House in the Cerulean Sea did. It's like, you know, witty and whimsical and fun, and the characters are really cool. But I also think that it can be quite impactful and quite lovely and cathartic to read, as it was for me. So one of you needs to read this because I need to talk to someone about it. I have no one, so when you read it, message me and let's talk about it. And the last book I'm going to talk about in this video. I read it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think about it every day. While yes, I think this book is so entertaining that I do think it can get you out of a reading slump, I'm honestly just kind of adding it in here because I need people to read this. Like, you don't understand. I need to talk about this with someone, so if I can get people reading this, that'd be great. And that book is Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat. This is a swords and sorcery type fantasy story set in the 1820s in London. And you might be like, Hannah, what? Yeah, I was too, but don't worry, we'll get into it. Set in London in the 1820s, the story follows Will, who is a young man who is on the run from the man who killed his mother, and Violet, a young woman whose world is completely turned upside down as the two of them discover a long-forgotten world and its long-forgotten war. They are thrust into a world of magic where they must fight with the stewards of the light to prevent the rebirth of the Dark King, who threatens to destroy the world as they know it. But in amongst old secrets and hidden civilizations and the discovery of their powers, where is the line between light and dark? That is literally all I can tell you of the book because, like, you have to go in knowing absolutely nothing. The way that C.S. Pacat releases information throughout this book, oh my god, it's a roller coaster ride. The amount of times I like audibly gasped and nearly screamed when reading this book. I honestly should have filmed it. I should have filmed me reading this because I think it would be so entertaining. The book does start off quite slow, but mate, once you get to the 50% mark, it feels like tumbling down a hill and then off a cliff into the jagged rocks below. Once again, the characters, I loved so much. Oh my god. Violet, what a kick-ass character. Oh my god. And Will, I just want to give him a hug. And it's so much darker than I was expecting it to be. Like, it's called Dark Rise. You think I would have been like, oh yeah, it's probably gonna be a dark fantasy. Guys, the ending is crazy. If you've read any of Pacat's other books, you'll know that this author loves the enemies to lovers trope, and so do I, so everyone's winning here. The main character is bisexual, and there is going to be a queer storyline for him in the upcoming books. There are hints of it in this one. It's very slow burn, but I'm interested to see where it goes. I can't stop thinking about it. Yeah, okay. I need to like stop rambling because I'm like the only one. Like, I know nobody else who's read this, which is why I'm telling you, you need to. This book hurt me to not rate it 5 stars. The book also just hurt me in general, so I rated it 4.5. The reason for this is because although the story's first couple of chapters were really interesting, getting to know the characters, up until the 50% mark, I just found it really slow. And like, I am a fan of world building. I love a good world building of a fantasy world. I wasn't a massive fan of the way it was executed. It did feel quite slow to me. I'm also not a fan of like training sequences in stories. I'm a bit over that. But I highly recommend that if you do read it, you push past that, because from about like 50% of the way through, oh, it gets good. The other reason why I didn't feel like I could give this book 5 stars is one of the characters, she's not for me. Let's just say that. Like, I can appreciate like her as a character. I get what like she was meant to do. Like, I get the vibe, you know, I understand. I just like didn't enjoy the chapters from her POVs. There's only like 3 of them, but it's the same vibe as like Agatha from Carry On. And I don't think she was necessarily supposed to be super likable, but I just like, I don't care. I just want to get back to Will and Violet. But yeah, this book was just super entertaining. I love it. I cannot believe that like I have to wait for the second one. And, you know, fun fact, because the author is from Melbourne, which is where I live, a couple of years ago at the Comic-Con that we have here, I went to go watch like a couple of panels. One of them was like an author's panel. And I did not connect the dots until I started talking to my dad about this book. And he was like, didn't you go to that author's panel when you were like 13? I did. So yeah, apparently I like low-key met the author years before I even read one of her books, so that's hilarious. But it's nice to see like Australian authors doing well on an international scale, so like I'm very happy about that. So there you go, these are my book recs for hopefully helping you get out of a reading slump. Hopefully your reading slump has not been 4 years long. If you watch this video to the end, leave a dog emoji for my cute little puppy, and let me know which book from this list you want to read, and also, are there any book recommendations that you have for getting out of a reading slump? Let me know, because there will be a reading slump in my future and I'm not looking forward to it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more things like this, because you're my friend now and I want you here. Okay, bye. Oh, I'm so sorry I put lipstick on you.